Well, it's that time that comes around every decade where the states have to, unless they are really lucky, have to redraw their congressional districts. Some states, like Ohio, had a strange combination of gaining residents while still losing seats in the U.S. House. Let the games begin. In the past, redistricting was made easy by two factors. One, when Ohio would lose 2 seats, the reapportionment board worked out a deal where the radical outliers of each party would have their former districts carved up so that these embarrassments to their respective parties would find themselves in new districts they could not hope to win. The other factor was that the reapportionment board could act in such a manner that they could legally draw districts that both parties had safe seats and acknowledge the political realities in play in the state. This time around, things are hopelessly different. First off, Ohio only lost 1 seat, so the outlier model, it just doesn't work. Secondly, in the infinite wisdom of the people in 2015, an amendment was added to the state constitution that created the Ohio Redistricting Commission. That is, by law, required to draw redistricting maps where all the seats were competitive and where all the districts were in a single contiguous area. When the majority of the 7-member commission are from the same party, one can imagine how they will draw the map. Now that in effect the Democratic voters in Ohio tend to be clustered in large urban areas, and the cherry on top is that districts have to be contiguous, so making a district that is split into 2 separate areas to make it competitive is not allowed. And with that, you have the crap cake that is this redistricting cycle's carnival of fools. The last time Ohio elected a Democratic governor was 2006, when the Republicans offered up a whack job of a candidate who, among other outlandish proposals, wanted to sell the Ohio Turnpike. Most of the statewide offices have been held by Republicans for most of the last 30 years, so any expectation of drawing contiguous competitive districts in such a red state is somebody's pipe dream, to say the least. Like most states that are having their congressional maps contested, Ohio is being confused with partisan gerrymandering, which is expected with the constraint placed upon them by the wisdom of the voters. Those self-same voters are, more often than not, either too busy to read or don't want to be bothered to read the fine print and vote for something or someone that sounds good without actually bothering to think it through. A proposal put on a ballot in 2018 to take the job away from the politicians and set up a Citizens Independent Redistricting Commission. But it was worded in such a way as to exclude anyone who knew anything about how the system actually worked, or may even be related to someone who knows how the system might work. Was voted down, leaving the fox once again guarding the henhouse. The ideas that voters always know what is best started to gain traction at the end of the 19th century, with the first proposals for direct primaries for candidates seeking high office. Theodore Roosevelt was a great champion of the direct primary in his day and pushed hard to get states to adopt it. His hard-driving personality got many states to take the first steps toward the primary system we have today. His star is almost as bright today as it was back then, when some called him a cowboy and a wild-eyed dreamer. His critics are actually right on both counts, especially the wild-eyed dreamer part. He trusted the people would always make the right decision, and that by choosing who they felt best about would bring the country together. And almost a century after his death, people are doing their very best to prove him wrong. The American people often do not choose the best candidates available to them, or vote to enact referendums or initiatives that will best serve them. Name recognition and celebrity tend to be what draws many candidates to a voter, sometimes to the greater detriment of the country. The nation seems that it is almost as divided as it was in 1860. Groups in some areas have made calls for seceding from the Union, most notably the Texas Republican Party at their recent convention. There have been articles published recently looking at what a civil war would look like in this day and age. If such a thing were to come to pass, most agree It would most likely not be between the states, but within the states, an insurgency as opposed to a set-piece war. Picture the Irish Troubles writ large, only in the United States. That is not to say that such a thing is an inevitability. We still have much more that unites us than divides us. But the thought is unsettling. There have always been, and always will be, fringe groups. Some will prepare to wage an insurgency but never act on it, while others may delude themselves into believing that the time to strike has come and the country will rise up to support them, only to find themselves labeled as domestic terrorists. For all the noise out there, people still want to live peaceful and quiet lives. Most actually are part of the silent majority that doesn't feel the need to engage in boisterous political discourse. Those who say that the founders' intent is better than what we have today may be right. Let's look back at what they didn't get. First off, the Bill of Rights had a proposed 12 amendments. Among those 12, 11 were eventually enacted. And since they had no sunset clause limiting the time before the states ratified them, the last enacted is today the 27th Amendment, prohibiting a sitting Congress from giving itself a pay raise. That means there is still that last amendment of the original 12 that could still be enacted if the states so choose. It needs 27 more states to ratify it and make it law. It deals with congressional apportionment, and if ever approved, it would basically mean moving the House of Representatives from its current chamber into Capital One Arena, because it calls for one representative for every 50,000 people counted in the prior census, meaning the House would not consist of 435 members, but rather would total around 6,000. There is an upside to this unwieldy number. It would certainly make drawing districts a whole lot easier. In fact, the Columbus, Ohio area alone would account for around 200 of those seats. Maybe that's not such a bad idea after all. Well, that's it for today. It'd be great if you'd like and subscribe, and feel free to have a go at me in the comment section. If you really like what I'm doing, feel free to visit my Patreon so I can continue to bring you even higher quality material. So long, stay safe, drink one for me.